one of the things that I hope that your yoga practice is revealing to you is that there is a dimension in you that I don't even know what to say is precedes. It's already just happening, right? And I'm not saying like one of the things I object to, two things. Believe me, there's a lot more that I object to. Here are two potential things that I object to, right? Is that is that the underlying realization of consciousness that's aimed for and uncovered by yoga within human consciousness, right? Um, I actually, this is weird. I don't think it should be directly um exploited for social change. I think that to like try to find the part of it, like to teach a class where we kind of go into the center of our chests and try to say, no, I'll go out and help change the world. I'm not really sure that's what, if I'm being truthful, I think when you actually start showing up more, our actions will change. But to go there with the explicit intent to utilize in um for social activism, I'm not sure that's what it's for. Right? I think it leads there. The train is slower than that, right? But the other thing I don't like about when all of a sudden you just look at so many things happening at once, and I don't like using it prematurely for a particular social agenda, right? Um, but I also don't like going there to not pay attention to what's happening in the world as a bypass, right? So there is a relationship. So I imagine these yogis way back when, who knows when, they're sitting there, and I don't know what their intent is, obviously. They're sitting on, in the dirt somewhere, and they're sitting there and they must be really quite intense. And by the way, they are men and women, by the way. They're not, they're not just one, right? And they're sitting there and they're really intense. They're trying to get right to the core of it. So they're seeking the sensation that maybe it's the very core of what it is to be here, right? Or something, right? And and they start to think, hey, it actually comes up through the spine and their butt's on the ground. So they're getting the hum right out of the earth. Do you know how to get the hum right out of the earth? I think this is a really good thing for you to practice. How do you get the hum right out of the earth? You can try some things. If you could, there's the trite things like take your shoes off if you weren't paralyzed like me, and well, it still works, and put your feet in the grass. If you can actually get up and down off the ground, spread eagle on the earth somewhere, actually practice the things you practice, like Shavasana, and actually do it on the earth and see what comes up through you, right? It's amazing, just so you know, right? But the truth is, you don't have to be laying on the earth. So they're sitting there and they're watching this energy come right up through their spine, and they start to do these things like lift the sternum, drop the chin, and they start trying to follow whatever the hum is. They actually try to, and then eventually develop asana. I joke because I think they got bored, right? They wanted to prove themselves because human minds need to prove shit, right? Right? They want certainty. So they start going, well, there's whatever this is happening. It doesn't matter where my body is. I could be standing, I could be on my head. The same thing's happening in all positions. Right? So they're sitting there like that. But there's still that question of how is what is inside connected to what is outside. Because I've been trying to get across to you that there's a sensation of whatever it is. I might call it the ceasing, I might call it a whole bunch of things, that is not in conflict with the chaos outside of you. It's not in tension with it. It's not a place to go there for denial. It actually makes you be part of the universe, not separate from it. It has to be had before you decide what to do with your life, where to put it. It's been being passed down for a long time. Sit up straight and tall. Turns out to receive what's going on here, the mind has to quiet down. You can't quiet down the mind by trying to have the mind quiet down the mind. You can't solve a problem from the same level of awareness that created it. Some guy named Einstein said that, right? So you don't tell your mind to quiet down. You shift gears. You don't go out and try to change the world without knowing where you hum. The hum's not going to tell you what to do. It precedes. Feet on the floor, sitting bones on your seat, head balanced over your neck. Something's happening here. You actually get to be alive. Can you make your aliveness congruent with what's happening? You're going to have to quiet your mind to do it. You have to make sure the mind isn't scared. So many people are scared. They're listening to bad stories. Lift the sternum, broaden across the chest, drop the shoulder blades, extend across the sacrum, rotate the inner upper thigh in and down, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel. As you do that, extend beyond the top of your head, extend your spine, become part of the river that's here. If you overdid it, repose. Let your actions follow what's happening. Breathe. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to move more, to be part of something, part of the emptiness in the room that surrounds you as you move. The emptiness that actually supports the lift in your chest. The emptiness is buoyant if you ground it. Good. And then release. Take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum, and hear the whisper of a lot of years of people saying this spinal position matters. Trust it. Find the story for yourself. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So, I don't know how many of you have read Waking, and I'm not sure why I'm telling this story, but if you, those of you that read it, you know how the book ends. You know what happens with the birth of my sons, you know. So we're planning the memorial service for William, and my mom really wanted it to be in a church, and and so we went to her Episcopal church, and there's going to be a memorial service for William, and he and I don't always see the world exactly the same, the minister and me, you know. I'm trying to not be in tension with all that. And he's curious about yoga. He means to be a good guy. He turns out to be quite an extreme kind of fundamentalist, fire and brimstone version of an Episcopalian minister. But we kind of go back and forth. And one of his conceptions of 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 Jesus is that Jesus sits in the world with his eyes open, and contrasts it with Buddha, who sits in the world and sits there with his eyes closed to human suffering, which at that point, there's no way to have a conversation with someone that sees the inner dimension as eyes closed, right? It's like there's no conceptual framework for communication. The inner dimension is not an escape. It's an inhabiting. Feel the breath through each nostril into each lung. Connect to each sitting bone. Keep your eyes closed at first. Helps your mind not be distracted. Now notice whether your eyes closed or open. Now open your eyes and breathe exactly the same way. When the mind is here without the body, it's more prone to violence. It's more prone to righteousness. That's why I study asana. We need asana now. We need the body now. All right. We're going to move a little bit, right? And the idea is that I want to tell you one of the things that I want to pass on. Nobody can get between you and the secret between you and the universe. Your aliveness is your own direct connection to existence. It's a promise for as long as you're alive, no matter what's happening. It's not a place to hide from the world. It's a secret. Your poses are a secret. All right. So now Tadasana, right? Bring your knees a little closer together. Find the inner dimension from the inner knee back to the groin, right? Right. And as soon as you draw back the navel just a little bit, at the same time, push on your front of your knees. So put your hands on your knees or whatever, wrists on your knees, right? You're going to hit back, but you're going to draw your navel actually below your navel, but let's just call it the navel, right? You're going to hit that back and then lift it right up your chest, right? So we're kind of on the edge of some bandhas here, but we're kind of near, Uddiyana Bandha, but don't worry about that. You draw up. So there's this pose called Mahamudra, right? Which is a forward bend, blah, 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 blah. But it's a lock. It's like got some bandhas in it, right? And so there's this really dynamic action of the drawing back, the catching it with the chest. So you draw back, so you get that to come in you. You draw back, you lift up your chest, and you can kind of see the natural, believe it's natural. It's not like as you draw that up, you're not going to raise your chest this time, your chin. You're going to drop your chin as the continuation. Because if you drop your chin and get your mind humble, the energy continues better up the top of your head, beyond the top of your head. Hold on, raise your head up and come back for a second. Just making any sense at all how the drop of the chin would actually continue the line up through the spine? Yeah? Okay, let's just stop and go, what the hell's going on here? Turns out that paradox reveals, right? So you're trying to continue the energy beyond the top of your head and you drop your brain, right? Interesting. Try it again, right? Don't worry. We'll actually start moving where it's like a little bit where things are a little bit more sunshiny, but no, when we start to move more, we'll be aware from the core, the fire hose of existence a little bit. We'll be more into kind of thinner air and it'll be happier for our minds, right? Because the minds don't like to hang right near the source. All right. So now again, you're going to put your hands, your wrists against your knees. You're going to hit back. You're going to draw what I'm calling the navel, but it's a little bit lower. It's where the lotus flower grows out of the Buddha pictures, right? It's like it's in the perineum, right? And you're going to hit back, but you're going to draw back. And when you do that, do you just kind of naturally want to lift your chest? Can you feel that? Yeah, right. That's why the people sit up upright in lotus, right? We're getting the something that happens in lotus. We're actually getting in this by doing it this way, amplifying Tadasana towards a bandha, right? And then you're going to lift up to the chest and then get how, if I want to continue to be part of the universe, I'm going to drop the chin. But before I drop the chin, I'm going to broaden across the collarbones. There's a way that these actions make a lot of sense. They write themselves if you're listening to the universe. Breathe. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So we're kind of doing what's near Mahamudra, which you don't even, that looks like Janu Sirsasana, but we're also near Lotus. We're like right in where things are happening, right? Okay. Now we're going to shift gears and go out to where it's not so intense. So we were just at the part of the stream or where the pipe of existence where we were narrowing the pipe real narrow so the current went faster, right? Now take your legs wide a little bit. So now we're opening it up the other way and now the little birdies tweet and you're more out into the world and you're like, oh my God, thank God, because this feels more like freedom, right? So you start moving around, which is everybody wants to do. Like every time I teach, I can see people, when is he gonna stop talking? Are we just gonna get to the more indulgent part of the sensation of feeling, right? Indulgence kind of judgy, but it's like this is the easy stuff, right? And it should be in your tool belt. Multiple times throughout your day, you should just move around and find the the sensation of freedom that comes more from the air, more from things being loose and open. Like you can move your arms and there's nothing wrong with this stuff. But if you start here, it's really a lot harder to make your way back towards the core, right? And that's why I think asana probably grew out of seated poses because this energy, it's hard to backtrack, right? It's harder to go from here. But once you can go from here and add this lighter energy to what we just did, right? So we're kind of just, I'm going to bounce a little bit. I've been trying to teach the bounce more, share the bounce, right? Trying to tell you that there's really important energy at the crease between your femur bones and and your hips, your femur bones, and your thigh, your and your lower abdomen, like that energy gets too quieted. If you sit too much, it gets covered up. So I'm going to keep trying to open it. So if we were in a traditional class, I'd have people do Setu Bandha right now. I'd have them put a block under their tailbone, right? Lay on their back, and I'd sit there, and as the teacher that can never do that pose like that, be a little envious, but I'm going to try to do it here. So I'm going to I'm going to do a little, it's going to look like a back bend, but I'm not so worried about this part. I'm worried about getting length. So I'm pushing out on my own femur bones. I'm like even moving the skin and the flesh this way on my thighs, right? But I'm doing this. Okay. Here's some weird stuff again. I don't know. Yeah, I think you might be with me on this. As you push and kind of like are petting kind of deeply the energy down your femur bones, you're pushing it out like you're pushing out toothpaste out of a thing. I want you to try to feel the simultaneous lift the other direction from here, right? So the push here has an echo that opens here, right? So I'm doing this way. And so the head part, when you take the head part, that's like the window dressing more, right? So I'm trying to first get this push. I'm pushing on my femur bones down and away, and I'm getting the reverb right across the diaphragm. And I'm thinking, that's a cool connection, right? That my femur bones here, think about it, this is the mid part of the torso and the mid part of the femur bone, right? The distances, or a little closer to the knees, are actually synced up a little bit, right? So I'm doing that a few times. And then I'll maybe, as I'm getting that connection between a little closer to my knees and my femur bones and my diaphragm, right? I'm going to start to draw anchor here and lengthen the front of my neck, my spine that way. So kind of suddenly turning into a back bend, right? But the back bend is anchored more in the body. The mind didn't try to butt out the body and go to what it wanted and then release, right? And then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to hit, push down my femur bones, reverberate to here, lift the sternum, and then slowly uncoil, lengthen the chin up if that feels good. So can you feel that little, and then come back? Can you feel, before you take the head back, can you feel that connection, thumb up, thumb down, between like the femur bone and what I'm calling the diaphragm? Can you feel how those two go together, right? Right. That's cool. So I'm sitting here with my elbows on the table, but I'm making sure I still mark that connection. So I've just felt it. So you got to let the sequence teach you things. So even as I'm sitting forward here, I'm making sure I get the connection, and I'm smiling because I'm getting ready for more action. And I'm taking a couple breaths. And if I pay attention to my breath, right, it actually locks my very low abdomen. As my rib cage expands, it expands right across my diaphragm. Now, here's a weird energy thing. Doesn't it make you want to feel the bottoms of your heels? That's why I always talk about the inner heel. Turns out that your heels are more connected to your diaphragm than the balls of your feet. This is the inside of breathing. This is the inside. And then it gets all the way up to your collarbones. And this is the secret that can't be changed by anybody. All right. So now you got it in a different position. So now we'll go back to the one that your mind thinks is more nourishing, right? So we're going to go this way again. So this time we're going to add like a kind of more like a setubandha thing. So when we're going to put our hands on the femur bones and, well, actually, well, yeah. Wow. Uh, all right. We're going to do the sequence of the whole thing. It's going to be a little bit intense, right? All right. So remember, we're going to try to piece together this class so far. So without all the preamble of like where paradise lay, right? You're going to make Tadasana happen a little bit. Bring your knees together, hit back on your knees, catch it up, right? So you push back on your knees. You ground the sitting bones, you lift the abdomen up, you catch it with the chest. And then you're just going to lift your chin a little bit and see how that all goes together. Don't have to do a back bend yet. You're trying to get, oh, okay. Right? But then you're going to drop the chin to actually continue the energy. You're going to go in, up, drop the chin so it goes up the backside towards the sky. So you're trying to be the weaving between the earth and the sky by dropping your chin in humility. Right? Okay. So that's that part. And then release. Now put your hands on your thighs and again, kind of push the energy out and lengthen up the torso. And I already told you to feel the diaphragm more, right? Feel that connection, right? So I'm going to do that a few times. I'm going to release, go back to the release, and then fire it again, and then release. And then it's like we're priming the pump, right? We're priming what's happening. Okay. We're going to do that a few times. Now, we're going to do something we did from the last class. You're going to reach around and push on your tailbone and jump from your tailbone to your chest, right? You're going to get that movement, which would be Setubandha, right? So you're trying to activate the part of your spine that's so hard, the energy part of your spine, that's so hard if you sit a lot, right? It's hard to get, right? Because there's a point, like if you were teaching Urvidhanurasana, which is upward facing bow pose, right? If I was, hey, Bethany, are you there? Are you, could you just get a picture of Urvidhanurasana? Okay, so if I was teaching this to traditional students, there's a point at which if I want to improve their pose, I do a couple things. When they're in the upward facing bow, there's a couple to different places where you can help and support the spine. But it's not like you just have to remind the mind that the spine is alive in places that the mind thinks it's all about the muscular effort, right? So, so in upward facing bow, if you want to help a student rise without effort, right? There are two places that could really help this pose. Would be like if I were to have a dowel, right? Or it could be my finger. I'd press right on her tailbone very lightly and from underneath, and I'd show her that she's actually bursting towards the sky and it doesn't depend on her shoulders, that the energy in her spine is flowing up. The other place that I would push to help the pose lightly would be between her shoulder blades. So I'd be going like this to help her energy go into the universe, all the places, right? Rather than just, and this is not a crank. This is like to remind her that the river is already there. Okay. All right. So yeah, and she's pointing to it. So what we're trying to do going back, and we're not really doing upward facing bow, but we kind of are, Urvidhanurasana, right? is that I'm trying to get you to get the inside of that pose, which is really hard to do the inside of Urdhva if you're a traditional student. You think it's all about accomplishment, right? As Bethany nods, right? You think it's, oh my God, it's all about how strong I am, right? But actually, you're trying to levitate in that pose, but that's a whole other thing, right? So you're going to push on your knees, right? You're going to hit back, right? You're not going to worry so much about this part of it yet. But I want you to get, when I was having you push on your own tailbone, right? I'm trying to get you to get the movement, and I'm just pumping back and forth here a little bit on my tailbone. I want you to get the movement and the release that you would get if I were to put a dowel in your tailbone, if you're a traditional student and you're upside down like that. So get that movement. There's movement. It's amazing how students, traditional students, can't know that there's freedom. You can move your tailbone into your body and transform the space around you, right? But it's really hard to see, right? It's really hard to do, right? So as you push on your own tailbone and move and let it go a little bit, know that there's an empty space in front of your tailbone and you can invite your tailbone forward into that space. So I'm doing that right now. It doesn't look like I'm doing anything. I'm doing some really freaking deep. I'm trying to push near my tailbone, catch it with my chest, and doing this action. And it's taking my breath away. It's not easy to do, right? Okay. So now we're gonna go back to the other pose. I don't think I've ever tried to so overtly teach Urvadevarasana. I'm not sure in a seated position. All right. So now you're gonna bring the legs together. You're gonna catch it. You're gonna remind yourself of the lifted chest and the dropped chin. You're gonna remember the inside there. Now you're gonna shift back on your sitting bones. Push your femur bones away, right? Catch it. Make the mirror here happening. The reverberation happening on the diaphragm, right? Now I'm gonna remember that lift, that energy burst from my tailbone towards the sky. Then I'm gonna open my chest, use this diaphragm, right, to broaden, and then take my head back. But I'm going to keep feeling the lift on my tailbone. I'm going to keep connecting my heels down, right? My chest is opening and broadening. Good. And then release. So I hope this is being a little bit challenging. Is this being challenging if you're doing it? Yeah. Yeah. So what happens when people do back bends in chairs, right, is the easy part of the pose is to feel the back of your chair and going up and over the back of the chair. And that's not wrong, right? That's not wrong, but you've missed the whole inner river part of it. So, and this happens to traditional students when they're on the mat trying to come up off the mat. They forget to be bouncy and light. So I'm going to bounce a little bit again, right? They forget. They think it's all on their shoulders, right? They forget that no matter what the body position, the energy is rising, not just falling, right? It's doing both. Right? So now, good gravy. I got to get that bounce to happen when I'm going back and over my chair after I've seen the inner river, right? Push back, go. I'm going to get the bounce right here and then go up and over the back of my chair. But the whole time, I'm going to focus on the dowel in my tailbone, lifting me up and my chest catching it. But I'm still going to stay connected to my inner heels. Good. And then release. Come on back. Not that I want you to do the pose wrong, but I want you to get how if you were to in that pose, we're gonna do it one more time. If you were to do that pose and let your feet roll, the weight go to the outer edges of your feet. Can you feel how it would break the whole pose? Can you feel the intuition of that? Yes. The inner seam, the bandha, the inner core we started with, is where the real dimension and power comes from in the pose. The outer part of the pose, the complexity of Urdhva is just trying to challenge the practitioner to keep seeing the inner seam, right? And the inner seam has to be received. So I'm going to sit here for a second because that me saying that line just made my inner yogi smile. Like it made me feel a light little burst. So now I naturally put my fingers on my frontal cortex because I'm trying to calm my mind down. And I'm trying to remember how freaking light it is here. Even though the pose is going to make it not be light anywhere, and living with a disabled body is freaking heavy. It's freaking heavy, except it's not on the level of the bandhas. So I'm going to breathe there. And then I'm going to just jump a little bit with my tailbone. I'm going to go, wait, that's right. If I don't try to do it all at once, if I see it in pieces, the world starts to get lighter. Now I'm jumping with my tailbone. I still got my hand on my frontal cortex because my mind will get too excited. Then I'm jumping with my tailbone. I'm catching with my chest. And I'm actually doing, and I'm feeling my heels. I'm actually doing Urvidyanurasana by making sure the salient points are staying integrated with each other, right? The parts of it. So I'm doing a little version of it. And all of a sudden, did you get it? All of a sudden, your collarbone wants to lift, your shoulder blades wants to spread. All of a sudden, the pose starts happening. You're not even freaking doing it. You're doing a little microcosm of it. This microcosm is why I teach adaptive yoga, because this is how yoga is universal. Because you can get the core movements and have it be big actions. It's a good place to breathe. And I know you're new, and Archibald or whatever. This is a weird freaking class, but they're all weird. So I hope it's good for you, right? I saw that you signed up this morning. So as a first class, we're out there in the ether, right? All right. Just saw your name on the thing. So I'm getting a little pose happening because it's about to get diluted when I do the big pose. All right, we're going to do the big pose, Urvidyanurasana, one more time. I'm going to get light because when I get all willy and shit, you forget to go, wait, I'm light as a feather, right? I'm light as a feather. I'm light as a feather and heavy as a brick at the same time. What the hell? All right. I'm gonna catch, I'm gonna find the core bandha, right? So I'm gonna bring my knees together, draw back the navel, lift the chest, and do a mini version of what will be the outside when I lean back. Because I don't want to lose the quiet secret with the earth that the pose grows out of. Poses grow out of the earth. Right? All right. Now I'm going to lean back and change gravity, which means I'm going to go back here a couple times and push on my femur bones down, feel the reverberation to here, but at the midpoint, I'm going to jump my tailbone just a little bit. Do that a couple times. I'm going to take my head back too and do a less physical version, but do the inside of the pose. This is how yoga poses don't have to be completed if they can be seen at the core, right? Now I'm going to go for the whole thing because my mind wants to feel really cool, right? Femurs in, pull back, go up. Remember the pop in my tailbone, go up and over. Make sure I slowly uncoil the front of my chest, the neck back open. But I want to feel that little jump and pop in my tailbone. I want to have all my energy upside down splay into the space around me, above me. Good, and then slowly come out of it. So they say back bends help, um, well, sometimes they say depression, but kind of the bluesy feeling. Can you feel that kind of like burst of energy a little bit? It's fatigue. Can you feel the fatigue too? But it's kind of like humming and coming out a little bit. Yeah, yeah. So as you feel that hum, don't forget the bandha. Feel the inside. Don't let it take away from the hum. Hard to do, right? So I'm actually going through the whole pose right here, right? I've got a little bit of good base. My spine is doing Urdhva kind of back and forth, right? I'm making sure I keep the hum, the deeper hum with the outer action, and I'm doing the whole freaking pose right here. Whoops, except I wasn't making my tailbone like a jelly bean. So now I'm going to try to like a jumping bean, right? Not like a jelly bean. And isn't it funny? There's a natural propensity to want to open your mouth, right? Hmm. Strange how these things do. How do you find your voice? Well, you find your spine, right? You find your spine and you let it support the top of your mouth, the top of your spine, your utterance. All right. Take your left hand up, out to the side, over, back. Gotta do a little twisting after all that back bending. I want to lean forward a little bit, but I want you to do it gentle. So I've got my forearm across, my right arm forward, my elbow on my femur bone, using the earth here, right? And so I'm a little bit forward, so the twist is a little bit deeper. Instead of Mrichasana 3, it's kind of a little forward and deeper. But I want you to gently inhale, lift up, and exhale, revolve. I want you to keep connected to the earth, to sitting in the dirt, right? There ain't no winning at the end of class. There's only uncoiling. Good. And then release. I'm gonna come forward with the other elbow. I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna get the twist that includes the bandha-like energy more. And gently twist. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Lift near the collarbones. Let it reverberate through my diaphragm to my mid femur bone. I'm not wasting the whole class. I'm seeing how it's connected. Then go back to the first side, because now where your elbow is on your thigh, right? You're at the place where I was connecting to the diaphragm. Think about what we're doing here and how the whole class, there's an invitation to the whole class to enter this twist, right? The drawing back the navel, the lifting of the chest, the flying open. Then you're going to go, oh, I better tuck the right shoulder blade. I better do some things to get the twist, right? To include the centering. Good. And then release. Do it the other way. If you want to take your arm up, you can. Go down. Trying to get the twist to include. Then I'm going to come back to center. I'm going to do it more, I think, in some ways, especially in a chair. Reach out and three leg twists are a little bit more on the outer body. So you're going to go and just take the other side, take the arm behind you. And so you're not leaning forward on your sitting bones as much. You got something else happening in this twist. There's not as much earth. There's more about the twist of the chest, right? And inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. But this is a good one after where it's lighter, it's not happening. You're more just moving empty spaces here. You don't squeeze it too hard. Makes just you notice your breath's a little easier to take. There's some things that are happening, and when you're not forward on your sitting bones, when you're not so bone connected, back to center. Take the other hand up. Go to the other side. Stay back behind your sitting bones some. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. You need to twist the empty spaces too. You don't just need to twist near the bandha. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. These are important twists also, especially at the end of class. Good, and then come on back to center. I'm going to lean forward on my table or put my hands on my thighs, and I'm going to find the inside because I want the nourishment to be all the way through. So I'm making sure I've got some symmetry set up, each foot, each sitting bone, each lung. For me, that means I have to derotate my scoliosis twist. I have to open the left side of my neck. So I don't know what your story is to get symmetrical. That's something I hope you figured out how to find, right? Because you're just setting up Shavasana now. Good, and now I'm going to switch gravity and I'm going to go into the chair and let my weight be held by the chair. If you're on the ground already, you can just lay flat. Right? Now I'm going to try to figure out, as I go back into the chair, I couldn't help but feel all those back bends, right? So I just smile and wave to them, right? Yeah. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. I have to let the support of the chair in. Soften the jaw, the inside of your mouth. Release the skin on your face. Let there be space between the skin and your skull, between the skin and your cheeks. Good gravy. Here comes the hum. So I'm going to make sure I locate it in my joints, my ankles, my knees, my hips, my shoulders, my elbows, my wrists, my jaw, my temples. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank the hum that is your body. The hum that precedes. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. Close them if that helps, and then open them again. Choosing and re-choosing is how you begin new every day. Good. Um, and then if if you find like a wave of fatigue later today, like obey it. Lay down. Take a sporty, right? If you can easily get horizontal, but get supported, right? Let it happen. Um, and then so on a certain level, Mr. Peabody's coal train can't haul it away, right? It can't. It's a good thing to know. Then you got to decide what you're going to do or not do, whatever. Your call. Right? All right, everybody. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.